Let's go. Tell me when we're on. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Darian, would you lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sunshine Law Statement. All requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been met for this meeting of the Board of Education of the Borough of Oradell. Notice of this meeting was filed with the Record and Town News and all persons requesting such notice. Mr. Darian, would you read the mission statement?
The Oradell Public School District is dedicated to the ongoing pursuit of educational excellence through comprehensive, innovative curriculum and instruction. The district is committed to providing opportunities for social, emotional, and academic discovery to foster curiosity, courage, and character. Our goal is to prepare our students to become lifelong learners who are self-directed, resilient, productive, responsible citizens.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mrs. Acosta? Here. Mrs. Neekum?
Here.
Mr. Griffin? Here. Mrs. Norian?
Here.
Mrs. Shapiro?
Here.
Mrs. Walker? Mr. Walsh? Mr. Darian?
Here.
Mrs. Nichols?
Here, open to the public for agenda items only. Okay, moving on to superintendent's report.
It seems amazing to say that we are officially halfway through summer. Now that means that our explorations program and our extended school year program have come to an end, and I think if you asked our students, they had a lot of fun during the program, and I was really happy that some of our new classes worked really well, and some of those classes helped to put materials in the school for the coming school year. So our class, a real estate tycoon, was a lot of building materials that will now go into our STEAM lab, and so it kind of helps us moving forward as well. If you read either in the PTA's update or in Mrs. Hawley's social media post or in the board update this week, we also unveiled next year's school theme. And I love the theme. It's OPS grows when kindness and wonder are planted, which I think is exactly what we are about as a district. Our goal as an elementary school is to develop strong academic foundational skills. But we want to make sure we're also developing kind, caring community members, and most importantly, and where I really want to see us focus moving forward, children that are engaged with learning and engaged with the world so that they're not just compliant, they're active learners. And that's where the wonder piece comes in, and something that we're really looking at professional development with regard to inquiry learning, and how do we get our students asking questions and thinking instead of just being, sage on the stage, give me the information, I absorb it, and that's it. So also I'm very happy about, you'll notice some new hires on this week's agenda. We're hearing right now all across the nation about education shortages, and I am thrilled with the hires that we are bringing in. We are bringing in a teacher with 20 years of experience teaching 4th and 5th grade, and I have never seen such a strong instructional aid applicant pool, and I don't know what to attribute that to. But we have one more hire that we are about to offer a position to. It's a short-term first grade leave. And then we are fully staffed for next year, which to be able to say that midway through the summer, we all get to breathe a little easier. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Marmora.
Just a bit of sad news to report. I'd like to take this time to acknowledge the passing of Kevin Williamson, a longtime OPS employee, recently retired in 2021, passed away on July 19th, I believe it was. Just a very sad, very young, I think he was only 55 years old. Some members of OPS went to his service this week, so I just wanted to mention Kevin, and maybe a moment of silence would be appropriate for this. Thank you. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving on to minutes, we have review of June 27th, approval for June 8th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Griffin. Any questions? Call the question.
Mrs. Acosta? Yes. Mrs. Neekum?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Norton,
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes, committee reports. Mr. Darian, would you take administrative items?
Yes, tonight we have 3 administrative items. I'd like to introduce items A1 through A3.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Walker. Any questions? Call the question.
Mrs. Acosta,
Yes.
Mrs. Negum,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Norton,
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes, buildings and grounds, Mr. Darian?
Yes, the subcommittee met again regarding the auditorium. This time we met with Lan, our architects, and Sun, who is our designer. And we reviewed tile, we reviewed colors again, and just talked about general things. And we are down to the final two colors. I know we've been down to the final colors for quite some time. But after receiving input from the designer, we decided we're going to look at one more color. And so I think the subcommittee is fine, but if the rest of the board members can go into the auditorium and take a look, there's 2 swatches, one on the left side of the auditorium stage and one on the right side. So if you can let John Marmara know which one you're more interested in, now's a good time to see it because it's usually in the evening is when everyone's going to be going to the auditorium anyway. I can tell you that it looks different during the day when the sun shines through the windows. So, but that's the latest on the auditorium. You can see work has started. They've already are patching and doing priming and there's scaffolding up. So we're making headway there. So with that, I'd just like to introduce item B1 for facility use.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Walker. Any questions?
Just a quick question. Do we know, this is not related to the item, but do we know when the project will be done? Is it running on time?
Well, in mid-August, we're getting, August 15th, we're getting the chairs delivered. So our goal is to get the scaffolding and the painting done beforehand. And that's possible. But there are some, variables. So, the chairs could come late. We could not have the curtains on time. But those aren't major things. The flooring has to be done. That's a big thing. So I know they started leveling the floor in the foyer. So hopefully tile would be going down soon. And then I don't know when they're scheduling to sand and epoxy the flooring where the chairs go, but that's the only thing. But we have 3 weeks, so it could be on schedule.
Good, thanks.
Mrs. Walker?
Greg, the entranceway or is that going to all be relit? They're going to put new lighting and everything in there?
Yeah,
It's kind
so-
of dreary.
So we've talked about the lighting. The chandeliers are going to be cleaned at least
In the auditorium.
in the auditorium.
Right, I'm talking about.
And there's one chandelier in the center of the foyer that should be cleaned, unless there's something else going on now.
Well, no, but we're also talking about a different color scheme in there. So remember, the floor is being replaced to a white floor, so that's going to brighten up the room. And the walls also have white and the cream and the gray, so you're also right there going to
Right.
brighten up that space.
Good.
But we do have lights by the stairwells that are going to be replaced with, hanging either pendant lights or chandelier lights, because right now the lights are way up at the ceiling on the second floor and they don't shine low enough for the first floor stairs. So by bringing the lights further down, aesthetically it looks better and it also functions better, providing more light in the stairwell. And the same thing all the way up in the balcony. There's some lights there. They should be replaced because they were just generic builder-grade Home Depot-style lamps anyway. So those are going to be replaced. But the ones in the auditorium, the big chandeliers, are going to stay, and the wall sconces are going to stay. They're just going to be cleaned and refurbished.
Good.
Any other questions? Call the question?
Mrs. Acosta? Yes. Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes?
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes. Curriculum, Mrs. Norian?
Yes, you noticed in your packets that there was an update. We opted not to have a curriculum meeting quickly before this meeting because there was not a big change. There were no real things other than updates of things like social emotional learning, things like computer things that were added into the curriculum that we already have for the math and science. So we decided not to have the meeting and to have our next meeting, which will entail much more, many more changes that we need to look at, that we'll need to look at in person. But at this point, we didn't need to go ahead with a meeting. So with that being said, I'd like to move on C1.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Walker. Any questions? Mrs. Walker?
So, Mrs. Norian, then we will be meeting to discuss the PE one. Is that the one you're referring to?
It's not just PE. We have social studies as well.
So we
Social
have
stu-
social studies, language arts, which is now also has the theater standards in it, the music curriculum, and that will be on for approval in the August agenda. The PE and health curriculum will be approved the first meeting in September, and we'll meet again for that, because that is a very thorough curriculum.
Yeah, and I saw that was extended or not. Yeah.
Mr. Griffin?
Yeah, just had a question. I know that last year we made some staffing changes in the science area. How does this new curriculum affect that science role? Can you talk through that any?
Specifically, the STEM coach role, or the sixth grade moving to a fully departmentalized sixth grade science teacher? Because both of those would be new for next year. We have used we actually have never used a fully departmentalized sixth grade science teacher, because prior, when we were fully departmentalized, that person taught science and social studies. In our model for next year, there will be 5 courses: a reading class, a writing class, a math class, a science class, and a social studies class. The teacher who is moving into that science position is actually an experienced middle school science teacher, and a known entity to Oradell Public. So that's a win for us. And in terms of the STEM curriculum, which we are continuing to work on, and you'll notice that you approved some workshop time in the beginning of the year, they're both doing 2 things right now with the STEM coach. They're integrating STEM standards into every curriculum, and they're also creating kind of like a side curriculum that will show you everything that's being done across the grades. Because sometimes that's a little bit easier, but what the state really wants to see is everything that's woven in. And the STEM coach has been part of every step of that.
Great, thank you.
Mrs. Shapiro?
So just to clarify, for 6th grade, you said the 5 core subjects. So it's really more like a middle school model where
Yeah.
they travel for every class. I don't know if they're traveling,
No.
but they're having a different
No
teacher, a
different-
specialist, right?
No different than 2 years ago when
Okay.
our own child was there, except that in that model, we had the applied learning class,
Okay,
and instead we're going to look to put applied learning in both science and in social studies. So the Shark Tank unit
okay,
may take place in social studies. There's talk of a hydroponic science that might take place in science. Okay, so they'll stay as their homeroom.
right.
They'll go to the 5 classes: math, reading, writing, science, and social studies.
All taught by specialists in those subject areas. And then they will have science instruction every day
For 55 minutes.
and social studies instruction.
For 55
I
minutes.
think this is wonderful.
Right. And it's really,
You know, It's great.
I think, going to help us with some other things. We've always battled with how to do SEL in 6th grade, where to put it. But when you now, moving from when you taught social studies only half a year in a way, because you were teaching it once a month, 1 month on, 1 month off, now you really have a spot to put it. And even some of the health, some things that might have gotten, where are we going to fit it? Now you have that science period that's also longer that you can do it there.
That's great. I think this is great for the children. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Call the question?
Ms. Acosta? Yes. Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Noreen?
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes, we're going to go to Mrs. Shapiro and Finance. However, Mrs. Shapiro, when you make your motion,
Yes.
just hold off D16 because we're going to go into a closed session and come back and vote on it. But I want to finish the meeting since we have public here in case they want to speak.
Okay. So we have not had a meeting since we last met. That's typical for finance because we're so furious working on the budget for next year. But I see from here the business office is very busy taking care of business, setting us up for the upcoming school year. So, but I think that we'll need a meeting next month, right, before school starts, so we can see, what's left to do. I would like to make a motion for items D1 through D15 and D17.
Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Noreen. Any questions? Call the question?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Noreen?
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes, we'll skip delegate report as Mr. Walsh is probably lounging by the pool at the moment in Florida. Personnel, Mrs. Walker?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to present F1.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any questions?
Rita?
Oh, Mrs. Walker, I don't know. Go ahead.
I just had to interject. I had a couple of questions, but I checked with Mrs.
Oh.
They were leaving.
Call the question?
Ms. Acosta? Yes. Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Noreen?
Yes.
Mr. Shapiro?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes. Let's see. Open to the pub, no, I've skipped. I always skip Mr. Griffin. Mr. Griffin, Public Relations and COVID Task Force.
No update.
Oh, I skipped Mrs. I'm losing it. Never mind. Policy, Mrs. Negum, sorry.
Nothing to report at this time.
I'm sorry. Mr. Griffin,
Nothing to report at this time.
sorry. Okay, now, Mr. Butcher, open to the public. We're waiting breathlessly to hear what you have to tell us tonight. Nothing to report. That's what we like.
Good one.
Old business or new business? Mrs. Walker?
Just the one thing, again, thanks to Jay too for his, bereavement message, but I also went to to Kevin's wake, and it was so nice to see so many of the custodial staff there and the family there. The daughter did tell me, though, she said, she shared with me that he was ready. He was ready at the time, so that kind of made me feel better. And the other thing, I just had two questions. The musical, we ended on a very happy note, but compared to last year financially, how did we do? Or am I asking the wrong question publicly?
Not as happy, but we were prepared for that. We knew that if we were going to do a musical this year, we did not have the resources to do it with our staff, not because they didn't have the skill set, but because of our lunch program and the way it was. Our music teachers didn't have lunch the same time, so they couldn't direct the musical during that time.
Okay.
So we knew that we were taking on more of a burden, and we are already excited to look at restaffing the musical next year with our own staff.
And we wouldn't do it next year, correct?
We actually will do it next year, because
Oh,
our
do it
current,
every
our
year?
next year's sixth graders will not have had the opportunity, because you'll remember that the musical this past year was only 6th grade. And I haven't even shared with our music team that our newest hire actually has background in
And the same thing, so we're gonna look to have that back in-house. Great. And the exploration, again, how did we meet with cost with that?
That's the one thing we haven't finished yet, and for the primary reason that some students attended explorations using grant funds. So that grant fund account has to pay the explorations account, and then we'll have a better idea of where we are.
Was that grant money due to COVID?
Yes, so part of the ESSER ARP grants had to be used for before or after school programming and summer programming. So we did 2 different things with it this summer. We paid for some of our English language learners to attend classes thinking that this would stop regression in English language over the summer. And for them, it didn't matter what class. We could just put them in any class, and that would be beneficial. And then we also targeted some students with academic needs and offered them an academic course in math or language arts over the summer as well.
So we ate up all of those funds?
No, we still have plenty for next summer as well.
Oh, and you're allowed to carry
Yes.
that over?
Yeah. And you'll notice that on this agenda, you approved, we did not receive Title I funds last year. We did this year, and we're running another program in August, specifically targeting students entering 3rd and 4th grade who are still showing some phonemic awareness weaknesses. And again, is it COVID-related or what? But we want to make sure that we've caught them up in that area.
Have we ever done that before August?
No, we
That's
actually,
new, right?
Yeah, and it's something new, and it's actually a new resource that we've tried some other things with these students, and we are trying a new resource that's very directed and small group to see if maybe this is the magic bullet in a way.
And have parents been receptive to? Oh, that's nice.
Actually, much
Great.
more so than the July program.
Okay.
I think August is almost a little bit of an easier time, so next summer, we'll really think through the ARP funding a little bit more, because in July, a lot of kids are in camps, and it's harder to get them here.
Any other old or new business? Okay, we do need to go into a closed session, so would you like to make that motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session.
To discuss a legal contract, right?
Yes, and we will not be making any
Yes,
decision.
we will be. We will be coming out and taking a vote.
Within executive session, we won't.
Oh, yeah, but we are coming back and
Yeah.
taking a vote.
Yep, I'll second it.
Thank you, Catherine. All in favor, aye, or do we need a roll call? Aye.
Aye.
Just aye.
Aye.
Coming back for 16, right?
It'll come to you eventually, trust me.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, I need a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mrs. Shapiro, do you want to make your motion?
D16.
Oh, I'd like to, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve item D16.
I'll second it.
Any questions? Call the question?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Have a great August.
Happy
Hopefully
summer.
we'll see you.
And any of you would like to see me
Oh, yeah, right.
somehow.